So yes, my name is Kristen as well, Kristen Kettering, and I'm a career counselor at the CCPD. And I'm just going to be sharing with you some information about the CCPD as well as IME as well, salary statistics and things like that. So I'll go ahead and I'll stop my video and I'll share a PowerPoint with you. Okay, so it should be coming on very soon. I hope everybody can see that. So again, my name is Kristen Kettering. I'm a career counselor from the CCPD, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the CCPD and what we can offer you and what resources we can provide. So just to let you know, we work with students on your resume and cover letter for applying, of course, to different positions. And then, of course, your internship, co-op, and full-time job search. And for those of you that might not know, a co-op is just a longer internship. So an internship is typically 2 to 4 months, whereas a co-op is a semester and a summer together, and typically 6 to 9 months. We also help students with interview prep, your offer letters for both internships and full-time positions. If you have questions about those, or if there's something you're unsure, what it means, we can look it over and help you out with that, as well as salary negotiation. LinkedIn. So we encourage all of you to have a LinkedIn account, and we can help you set up that profile and just navigate the site and let you know how to use it, to your best ability for applying to jobs and things like that. Navigating any career fairs, whether they're virtual or in person. The whole graduate school application. So applying to graduate schools, finding graduate schools, any of the, writing your graduate school essays, so any of the application materials we can help with. We also help with all and every employer correspondence that you have that you might have questions about. How do you email? What should you say in an email to thank the people that you interviewed with? Or how do you negotiate salary through an email? Those kinds of things. And then any general career information, advice, and we also offer an array of career-based workshops. So how do you contact our office? We have a general email that you could always email, and then it would go to the appropriate person. But you can also make appointments with us through Handshake. And the appointments at this point are still virtual. We're working, remotely. So they consist of WebEx meetings, regular phone calls, or email consults. In the School of Engineering, there's 3 career counselors. I am one of them. There's also Emily Sales and Lindsay Demner. So when you go on to make an appointment, you can really just choose any of the 3 of us and see which career counselor has an opening that works with you. We also have a 2-hour walk-in period every single day, Monday through Friday, where you don't need an appointment. And you can just log in and wait in the counselor's WebEx room and talk to a counselor for 10 or 15 minutes or longer if we have the time. And then see the times in Handshake under events for what hours that particular day we have the walk-in times. So I just want to put a plug in for Handshake. That's our career portal. And you really won't get the full benefit of our office services or the resources that we can offer you unless you are registered on Handshake and utilizing it and using it on a regular basis. So the companies that we have relationships with, they will post jobs for RPI students on Handshake. So you can search and apply to jobs, internships, and full-time positions. Under the events tab, we have employer recruiting sessions going on, information sessions, and career-based workshops. You also have access to resources on Handshake, such as Interview Stream, which helps you practice interviews. Focus 2, which is a career-based assessment that you can take, which will narrow down your career goals and interests. And Career Shift, which is a web crawler that you can use in addition to Handshake to search for internships or full-time positions. You can also post your resume on Handshake, complete your profile, and open your account to employers. Believe it or not, a lot of employers will get on your profile if you open it to them, and they will look at your resume. And then you can also communicate students from other colleges and universities on Handshake. And of course, you can make appointments with us at the CCPD through Handshake. So just wanted to give a plug for that. So as far as specifically IME goes, the skills to emphasize really for all engineers, but also specifically for IME students on your resume are any leadership or project management skills or experiences that you've had either through classwork or through past internships that you've had, any projects, independent, or things that you do through class, any leadership at all, really. Machining skills, software and coding skills. So, a lot of times engineers, to get a little bit further, they will take more coding classes on the side than they're learning at RPI, and that just helps you be a little bit more employable. So just consider that. Of course, your math, science, and statistical analysis skills, your problem-solving skills, your teamwork and collaboration skills, and your verbal and written communication skills, and your creativity. So there's ways for you to show this on a resume that we can help you create. Okay, and I want to just share with you some IME hiring and salary statistics. So every year, the CCPD does statistics based on graduates, and that is located on this site right here. That's our career page. And for the RPI statistics for a bachelor degree, the average starting salary, now again, this is with a bachelor's degree, and very starting salary is $64,000. The starting salary range is anywhere from $50,000 to $85,000. So again, this is all for a bachelor's degree, and this is based on RPI salary statistics. Another great site to look up national statistics or just more salary statistics for IME is the BLS, which is the Bureau of Labor Statistics.gov website. You can search for the Occupational Outlook Handbook and then look at specific careers and then just click on salaries. And an annual or bachelor's degree median salary for 2019 is about $88,000. So again, that keep in mind that is not entry level. That is everybody combined, so all levels. But bachelor degree, but as far as experience goes, I guess is what I'm saying. So it could be a bachelor's degree with 5 years of experience. It could be a bachelor's degree with no experience, that kind of thing. So just wanted to give you some salary statistics. And then I want to give you some information about employers. So who hires RPI students who have industrial and management engineering as their major for internships and co-ops? This is not the whole list. This is just a sampling of some of the companies that hire our students in your major. And again, that's all located on that site that I had just showed you on that last slide. So definitely check out the CCPD page. But you can see some are small, some are huge, some are local, some are not. They're just all over the place. But some great companies there. And then I wanted to show you, sorry about the small print, but this is a list, again, not the whole list, but just a sampling of full-time employers, employers that hire our students for full-time after, upon graduation. So you can see again, local, not local, big, not so big, really a mix of all different companies. Okay, so that's just a little bit of CCPD information that I wanted to share, and I am all set. Thank you, Kristen.
I always lose the screen when I'm looking for it. Thank you so much, Kristen. As always, super great information, and I'm 2 seconds away from posting the link to what you just showed us with the hiring statistics, and of course they are going to be in tomorrow's email as well, so you guys will be able to take a look at it there. We do have 2 minutes for questions, so I'll pause if anyone has any questions, and please feel free, if you want to unmute yourself really quickly just to ask Kristen a question, don't be shy.
Yeah, definitely. And I can, I'll chat in the chat box, I'll put my email address, because if maybe you're a little too shy to ask me right now, you can certainly email me at any time, whether it's this evening or tomorrow or even 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, it is a busy time.
It is.
Yes. All right. So I did notice that you guys have a lot of really cool networking. You have like an all major networking event coming up, and then I saw you also have a program about summer internship. So I wondered, do you want to do a quick plug of what's around the corner?
Oh yeah, thank you so much, Kristen. So
Yeah, no worries.
yes, this Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30, we actually are having an employer event, and it's I think we're up to about 35 companies now, and it's for all majors and all level RPI students. So, anyone from freshmen all the way through, PhD level can join this. You just want to, again, get on Handshake and RSVP for the event. It's called All Majors Industry Event this Wednesday, the 2nd, from 5:30 to 8:30. And it's just all different companies, but you can sign up for a variety of things. You can join group information sessions, or you can actually sign up for individual sessions, almost like the virtual career fair that happened in September. So you would have 5 or 10 minutes with an employer, and you can share your resume and talk with them. But there's all on Handshake, there's descriptions of all the companies that are coming and what majors they're looking to hire for either internships or full-time or both. So it's a really great opportunity. And then I'm so sorry, I don't know the date off the top of my head, but again, on Handshake, if you look under the events tab, again, we have workshops that we offer on a regular basis, and we do have one coming up where it's all about helping freshmen get an internship or try to get an internship. Tips for you as freshmen, because it is tough for freshmen to get an internship. So that workshop is coming up. I'm pretty sure it's this week, or if not, it's the beginning of next week, but definitely get on the events tab and check that out.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. And you know what I'll do? As soon as we kick off with the panel, I'll actually just go and get the dates of that event so that everyone can see it since we're talking about it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as always, I always have so many more questions for you, but I am realizing what time it is.
I know.
So again, thank you for your time. I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you.
And congratulations for being the last career counselor on the last industry hour this year.
Thank you so much. Good luck to all of you, and I hope we hear from you at the CCPD. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so now we're going to change gears over to my colleague and friend Valerie Swenson, who will begin us on our panel with our wonderful IMEs or MGTEs or ISYS, whichever acronym you want. So Val, if you would like to have our panelists unmute, unmic, and introduce themselves.
Absolutely. Sounds good. So I'm Valerie, by the way. I'm the academic advisor for industrial and management engineering in the School of Engineering for freshmen, first year students. And then actually this year is unique in that I'm advising both sophomores and juniors too. So I'm getting to learn a lot about upperclassmen. So we have 3 great panelists that we'll be hearing from today, including 2 alum and 1 current student. So Jennifer, Katie, and Gage, if you don't mind going ahead and unmuting yourself and showing your video, and I'm just going to have a bunch of questions for you.
Hey, Valerie.
Hi, hello.
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 Hi, everyone.
Hi, Gage. Hi. All right, so as I just started talking, it started pouring rain outside. So if it gets to be too loud, I'll grab some headphones. But so what I'm going to do first, we've got a bunch of different questions we'll be asking our panelists. And the first thing that I'll have you do, we'll go in order. We'll have Jennifer, you'll go first, then Katie, and then Gage. The first thing that I'd like you to do is just give, a brief 2-minute introduction to yourself, the group, your name, where you work, where you're from, where you live now, and then we know where you went to school, but any other information about academics that you got. So, Jennifer?
Cool. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks so much for spending your evening with us. My name is Jennifer Papazian. I am part of the class of 2016, and I was actually a part of Greek Life, part of Alpha Gamma Delta when I was at school, and I still volunteer a lot with them too, which is awesome. I definitely tried to be as involved as I could on campus, and I still volunteer a lot for the Alumni Association at RPI, so that's pretty cool too. Highly recommend that when you guys graduate. It's a lot of fun. And then after graduating, I started working at National Grid as an engineer in their project engineering department for natural gas. And then since then, I've moved to a lead engineer position, and now I'm a senior engineer. And I recently started in a new department, so now I'm focusing on liquid natural gas and compressed natural gas. I absolutely love my job and the people I work with, and right now I'm actually still living with my parents on Long Island, born and raised, and my job is actually split between office work and field work. So right now I'm working from home, but I do go to the gas plants every now and then when they need me on site. So yeah, it's a bit about me.
Perfect, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay with these headphones? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so next, Katie.
Hi, everyone. My name's Katie. I am class of 2017. I graduated in December due to a co-op that I took while I was at RPI. I was a dual major with Design Innovation Society and Industrial Management Engineering when I finished up. I am from Schenectady, New York, so I am 30 minutes down the hill on the other side of the river. And I am actually back here now working at Price Chopper, which our headquarters are in downtown Schenectady, right near the new casino. And similar to Jen, I was part of Greek Life of Sigma Delta while I was on campus. I'm current advisor for our sisters on campus or virtually on campus. And I'm currently going for my MBA at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, doing it online amidst everything going on. And similar to Jen as well, I work in store operations for my position, so I am split between office work and in the stores at times, depending on what is going on, what work needs to get done, and different projects that I've been taking on.
Perfect, thank you, Katie. And then next, Gage.
Hi, I'm Gage. I'm a senior. I'll be graduating in May. Thank you. And I'm currently doing school online and also doing an internship at Price Chopper. I'm a supply chain intern there, so I've been doing a bunch of different stuff in their general merchandise warehouse. And I'm captain of the cheer team. That's interesting. And I'm studying IME and I'm getting a minor in psychology. Oh, and I'm from New Jersey.
Perfect, thank you. So now that we have our introductions, what I'll be doing is we have a whole list of questions to be asking our panelists here. And then at the very end, we'll open it up to questions that students have. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is kind of launch into these questions. And this first one will be for each of you. And kind of throughout this time, we'll keep in the same order just to keep it straight for myself. So if you could, the first question I'll have for each of you is, what made you decide to be an industrial and management engineer? Jen, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I actually kind of got to that point later on at RPI. So my junior year, I actually switched over to IME from mechanical engineering. And I just realized that I kind of really loved organization, and I really feel like IME is the engineering of organization, and kind of finding process efficiencies and kind of figuring things out in a different way than maybe other people would. And that's kind of what brought me to that degree specifically. And so far, I feel like it's really worked out for me and kind of honed in on my skills of just like organization in an engineering mindset. So I think that was kind of my aha moment of, yeah, this is where I want to kind of go on with in life. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Next up, Katie.
So I will be perfectly honest. I came in as a mechie, and my dad and mom had a bet on how quickly I'd be switching to industrial management engineering. My dad is an engineer and actually teaches in capstone at RPI, and he being exposed to a lot of the different engineering fields was like, I love Katie to death, but she's not going to make it as a mechie, and she's too process oriented, but I need her to come to that conclusion on her own. So I did my first semester, and then second semester, my freshman year, I quickly realized that mechanical engineering, as much as I appreciate and love people that do it, it was not for me. And I wound up switching second semester my freshman year, and taking some of the classes. It really just kind of clicked afterwards instead of trying to struggle through a major that I may or may not have liked.
Thank you. And actually, I have a side question for you. Which of your parents won the bet?
My dad did. My mom was like, "Oh, she'll stick it out. She likes it," but my dad knew too much of the engineering background.
Great, thank you. Engage.
Very similar to Katie, I started as a BME and switched to IME. The acronyms are great. But I took BME classes and just really, I absorbed the material and it went right back out. So, I switched to IME, technically switched my second semester freshman year, but started taking the courses my first semester sophomore year, and just really enjoyed the material a lot more. Also similar to Jen, I have a knack for organization, and I just really like efficiency and things like that, as nerdy as it sounds, but I just like that kind of stuff. So switching was definitely the move, and looking at some of the coursework, I was like, oh wow, like I think I would really like this. And Val helped me a lot to switch, and like reassured me that switching, I'd still graduate on time and things like that. So I switched, and I've never looked back.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And I'm not gonna lie, I cheer a little bit. You're graduating, very exciting, senior. All right. So next, what I'll do is kind of launch into our questions. We've got a few individual ones, and each of you kind of touched upon some of this already, but I'll try and ask a question in the way that I'm not repeating. So Jen, first up, we have you. And for those of you who haven't been at Industry Hour before, basically we have people, our panelists submit some materials. And what I liked about each of these three panelists, they had a lot of really great quotes that I kind of pulled out of what they submitted. And that's my first one here is, so Jennifer, in your materials for the program, you'd said that you changed from mechanical to industrial because you loved figuring out how things worked, but also loved how making things work in their best and most efficient way. So can you kind of speak to this a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when I started at RPI, I didn't really know about the different offerings of engineering and kind of what they were. I had seen them on a piece of paper. We have, XYZ engineering degrees, but I kind of only really knew about like mechanical, electrical, civil. I didn't really know about anything else. And I was like, okay, I was on the robotics team in high school. I guess I'd like mechanical. So let me just go into that and see how it goes. And while I did really love the classes I was taking, and I really enjoyed figuring out how things worked, and that was kind of like the general basis of kind of how the mechanical engineering course load was at RPI, I then started to kind of look at other, friends that I've met at RPI, seeing what majors they were in. A good amount of my friends were in IME classes, and I kind of asked them about it too. I was like, what kind of classes are you taking? Like, what are your takes on it? What exactly are you learning? Because, I would see the course titles and things like that, but I wouldn't really know exactly like what they were actually learning in those classes. So I would ask around, kind of get that information. And then I quickly came to the conclusion, towards my junior year, I was like, what? I think that's something that I might be better suited for. I did absolutely, it's not that I hated anything mechanical engineering wise or anything like that. It's just, I think I just felt more strongly about the courses in IME, and they spoke to me more, and I could see myself doing those over a long period of time. So that's kind of like how I got to that conclusion of, taking that leap to switch. And then I ended up meeting one of the professors in the IME. I don't know if he's still there, Professor Mambor. He was great. He ended up being my advisor, but I actually just, reached out to him and said, can I talk to you about possibly switching my major? He had no idea who I was, but he took that meeting and kind of, answered my questions and went over, anything that I had, to ask about the IME coursework and things like that. So, yeah, I would say, some advice, reach out to one of the advisors over. I usually love taking on a meeting or two, especially with things virtual. It's a little bit easier now to schedule these things. So I would definitely reach out and kind of just have a chat. It doesn't mean that you have to completely switch your major if you don't want to, but definitely give some insight.
Great, thank you for that. And actually, Professor Malborg retired, but he was awesome. And that's how I got to know IME pretty well.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So side note, and something that we're kind of touching upon with each of these ladies who are speaking is everyone switches to IME at a different point, right? So something that I think is worth noting generally for all of you who are maybe considering IME as a major, the number of students who actually declare the major jumps off, especially, second semester freshman year on. The class of 2021, which is Gage's year, I think we started, I want to say, with maybe 20 or 21 students, and we have upwards of 60 now. So it's really cool seeing that growth. And I think that's you all are a good testament to being able to switch into the major, find what you love, and also get to do that after college too. So thank you. And my next question for you is, so within your materials, you had indicated the importance of professional development as well as networking. And then you talked a bit about your education opportunities after college, including your master's program. So can you speak a bit into insight with this?
Yeah, definitely. So I was actually fortunate enough to join a company that offered to pay for continued education while I worked, and also covering any fees for my FE exam, PE exam, things like that. So I was extremely lucky, and a good amount of these companies out there do something like this. So highly recommend looking into them if that's something that you're interested in. A lot of companies do offer these things. You just got to go find out which ones that do. But after I started working full time, I never really thought in undergrad that I would get a master's. I just had never, I was like, I'm done with my 4 years. I'm good. I just want to start working and I want to get into it and just, go on, start my career. And then after I started working, actually in 2018, so 2 years after I graduated from RPI, I kind of looked into what my company had to offer. And they said, we'll pay for your master's if you want to do it, after work. So I said, well, now if you're going to say it's free, I have to do it. So, I never really thought I would, but I was like, let me just push myself and kind of get that extra step, and maybe not doing it in engineering kind of helped me a little bit because it kind of showed me the management aspect. And, I want to go into, management opportunities at my company one day and things like that and kind of lead teams. So I was like, let me try it. Let me get an MBA. I graduated this year during COVID, woo! But I think it helped me a lot and kind of broadened my knowledge base too a little bit. So I had that whole engineering side from RPI, and then a little bit of the management too on the IME side, and then kind of went full on business administration for my master's, and then I really didn't think I was going to take the FE exam either. And then, most people were taking it their senior year at RPI, and I kind of didn't really think about it because I was like, I just want to, finish my capstone, get through all the stuff, do it right. And then after I graduated, my company said that, they would pay for that too. So I was like, well, I guess I have to study for this now. So I guess hindsight's 2020, but I would say go for it. Try and get as much as you can while, you're still in your 20s and don't have too much responsibility and kind of just getting started with your careers. You'll have a little bit more time, I feel like, than when you're getting to those higher level positions. So I would definitely say go for it. Don't be too scared to do it, and don't think you can't do it, because it's definitely possible. You're already at RPI, which is one of the hardest schools out there. So you already have it. But and then on the other side with networking, I mean, that's like the biggest thing I think that helped me get my internships and my full-time job and all that stuff. Because, meeting people, even at these, industry hours, talking with us, with just, picking our brains. Once we know your name, maybe that could help, land a job or something like that. If we see your resume come through our desk, you never really know. And a lot of our alumni also go, to the career fairs and things at RPI. So, we do meet a lot of people, but sometimes we'll remember you. So definitely helps to network. Reach out on LinkedIn. That's like my biggest advice. I love LinkedIn, and I know so many other alumni do too. So don't feel afraid to, message a random RPI alumni and say, hey.
Thank you for that. That's all very good advice for our students here to keep in mind. So next up, for our questions, we'll have Katie. These next two are for you. So, oops, sorry, 1 second. So my question for you is, you at RPI, you were an IME and DIS dual, correct?
Yep.
So, and you were also mechanical, as you had mentioned before, like Jen. So could you speak a bit about your decision to dual in industrial management engineering and design innovation
Society,
yeah, I'm gonna say studio, and how this has helped you professionally?
So going in, when I applied to RPI, I applied as a DIS major because that program was harder to get into at the time. And they said, like, apply for that, and then you can always add your engineering on, which was my intention from the beginning. The DIS component for me was a big draw to RPI because it was the only of its type for undergrad in the country at the time. It's a very broad, it covers a lot of material, but you won't find everything that you get in DIS at like another program. Some are more like industrial designer, some are more like sustainability. This kind of combined everything for me. So I got everything from product design, which would have gone really well with my mechanical side when I had started, but also like human design and working with nonprofits. I'm trying to think what else we did in our studio classes, but there was a wide range of skills that are considered softer skills, but if utilized, you can use them as an advantage. One of the big things we did was, I remember going over to one of the nursing homes on Burdett, right near the Colony Apartments, and we did interviewed a bunch of senior citizens because we were told, like, do something around medicine for like the elderly, and we're like, okay, I have no idea what we're gonna do. We just go talk to these people and figure out. So we were looking at like medicine dispensing medicines, and we were like, okay, a bunch of us were mechanical engineers at the time, so we were like, what can we do with that? And then between interviewing everybody, I'm like, oh, we did a couple things here. Later, when I went to SHIC interview or information session, they had said, like, one of the program management hiring manager had said, like, oh, we're looking for skills of XYZ. And I'm like, well, I just did this in class. So I went up to her and spoke to her, and she's like, well, I have a couple interview spots. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a first semester. It was my first semester sophomore year. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go up to her, talk to her, and see what she says. I'm like, hey, I have experience with focus groups. You mentioned doing those with some of the razor testing that you do. Having experience with this, I know I might be a really good candidate. And she's like looking through her thing, and she's like, okay, I have a couple interview spots. Do you want one? I said, yeah. And I wound up going to SHIC the next semester. So things like that, where it may not seem applicable, or if you catch one buzzword or one word that a hiring manager said, I'm like, for me, it wasn't from my engineering side, it was from my design side. It really helped me. And there were times and times again of like, all right, tell me a time of confrontation. Well, we're always working in groups for my studio classes, so it was easy to keep applying those of confrontation, somebody not pulling their weight, this and that, which you also get in like IED, capstone, some of your small group projects. You can bring up those interactions every time when you're interviewing, or talking to somebody, and those are the skills that really they stick out. So for me, a lot of my DIS side came through when it was things that people don't normally say, or you can have 15 different examples and each one's a little bit different, or how I handled it because I had learned from my previous experience just shows that growth, that you're willing to try, you're willing to do better, which is a lot of what managers are looking for. They're like, you may not have the skills now, but are you willing to learn? Are you willing to admit that you screwed up? Because I've made multiple big errors in my career, different internships and career-wise, and you goof up, you own up to it, and you move on. And that's some of the big things that, for me, that's what really helped with the DIS portion to get me to where I am today.
Thank you so much for that. You brought up a lot of really good points, and I could see Gage nodding over there about capstone and IED and some of the challenges that are there. And I think that with students, you know, you go through the motions with classes, but at the end of the day, this is all to prepare you for, you know, your internships and career and field. So thank you for that. So this is in my next question is something that I also pulled from your materials that you had submitted. So in your materials, you talked about the importance of the career fair learning and also being grade conscientious to a degree, but it's not everything. Can you elaborate a bit on this?
So I am upfront and say I did not graduate with a 3.0. I own up to it. I know some of the people will also say that they graduated with a 2.99 and that they were this close to making it, but they didn't hit that 3.0 mark. And I think when you go to RPI, you hold yourself to such high standards. Like, you made it, you got into one of the best schools, and you want to push yourself, but you don't realize that everybody you're surrounded by are also really smart. So I'm like, I fully admit I was in the bottom half of my class. Like, I own up to it, I know it. But there are certain things like networking. You don't have to be the best of the best. If you get, like Jen said, if you get your resume in front of somebody and they happen to see it and they're like, oh, I remember that name because they came up and talked to me, or oh, so-and-so referred me to it, and you know somebody. I went into RPI saying I would never network. I would never rely on other people. I was sorely mistaken. I think networking sometimes gets a bad reputation of like, you're going to a big ballroom and you have to talk to everybody and you've got to make small talk. But a lot of it is just picking up one or two words or saying, oh, you said this thing and I relate to this, or I'm from here as well, and knowing that they're from the same location or a similar area in the state. Something like that you really can touch upon and go off of a conversation with that and really stick out to a manager or somebody who may not even be hiring but can like pull for you later. I've had people contact me on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I'm looking for a job. You may not remember me, but we met here, or we talked about this. And it can go off. But I would say if you have the opportunity, go to the career fair. I went up to Johnson & Johnson and made a complete fool of myself freshman year, but they gave me a Band-Aid kit and I loved it because I got the free swag. But make the mistakes early, because when you actually go up to somebody who's recruiting, you don't want to screw up. And for me, I'm Western Digital. I think I screwed up with them, J&J. I went to a civil company. I didn't do my homework and I was just walked up and they're like, well, we're hiring civil engineers. And I'm like, well, made that mistake. But the more people you talk to, the more comfortable you get and the better you can have a better feeling of what are managers looking for? Like when they're looking at your resume and they have 30 seconds to skim it, what do you want to stand out? Or what skills do you want to highlight when you have 10 seconds to sell yourself and really make yourself memorable? So for me, that's a huge thing that is very, people like freshmen are like, oh, I'm scared of it. It's like, do it now and enjoy like making the mistakes, because one, you walk away with a bunch of free swag anyway. So, and it just gives you that opportunity to grow later on and really perfect everything so that when you are doing your full-time, when you're looking for a full-time job, you have those experiences, you know what they're looking for, you can go in and own it and feel confident, and then hopefully get an offer a few days later. So.
Great, thank you for that. That's all very good advice. So next up for our questions, we have Gage. So the first question I have, and again, Gage, like the other two ladies here, had changed her major. And my question for you is, can you talk a bit about your experience in changing majors from biomedical to industrial management engineering, and also your very solid success as an IME?
Yeah, definitely. So I started as a BME, as I said. The material went in one ear and straight out the other. It really just didn't click with me. I'm not sure. I can appreciate the material, but I didn't want to go to class. So after my first semester, I ended up with a 2 GPA. And then after my second semester, I ended up with a 0.77. Yes, below a 1. So I was kind of freaking out. I talked to Valerie about it. I said, listen, I don't think this is going to work for me. So we went through and she explained to me the course material for IMEs and how she thought that would fit with my personality. Going through it, I definitely agreed. So I switched at the middle of my second semester freshman year, and then started officially taking classes for it my first semester sophomore year. And in doing those classes, my GPA completely skyrocketed. I went from a 0.77 and quadrupled it to a 3.45 that first semester. And then I've been on the dean's list ever since. I just really like the material. I really, I guess, vibe with it more, if you will. It just speaks to me a little more. I don't know. It just goes to show that when you enjoy what you do, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything. It just feels like fun. And don't get me wrong, there are definitely classes that I'm like, oh man, here we go again. But for the most part, the classes that I take as an IME, I enjoy way more. So I think that if you enjoy what you do, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything.
That is such great advice. Thank you. And yes, so the next question I have for you has to do with some of the opportunities that you've had as an IME now. So this past spring, you had a co-op, and then over the summer, you also had an internship, correct? So can you talk a bit about those experiences for our students?
Yeah, so and just going off of what Katie said a little bit, it definitely is not all about GPA, because my cumulative GPA is still not above a 3, which is fine because I got internships. I'm still gonna graduate. I'm living, So I participated in the summer arch, which wasn't as bad as they make it sound. It was pretty fun, and through that, I ended up getting an internship with Mack Trucks in Pennsylvania. I started there in January. I was supposed to go all year, basically till September, but because of COVID, it ended a little early. But it was a lot of fun. It was in manufacturing. So the one thing that I liked about IME is that it's very broad. So I started in a co-op at manufacturing, and then got an internship over the summer at Price Chopper as a supply chain intern. So it's very different ends of the spectrum as an IME. So it's kind of cool, just the different fields that you can get into. So depending on what you like or what you think you'd want to do more. As a co-op at Mack Truck, I did more optimization. And as the supply chain intern at Price Chopper, I'm doing more organization and things related to supply chain in their distribution warehouse. So it's definitely very different, but still related to my major, if that makes sense. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you're liking it. And something I wanted to mention too is, you let me know what happened with COVID and with the Mack Truck, and then I feel like right away you got the position at with Price Chopper and Golub too. So it was great to see that bounce back, in addition to academically and such, which of course. All right. So thank you so much for that. So from here, the rest of the questions that I have are going to kind of be for the group. And again, we'll go in the same order. So it'll go Jen, and then Katie, and then Gage. So my first question for you all is, what is your favorite part of your day and or your job or internship? Jen?
So I guess my favorite part of my day is obviously going to work every day, but also doing something completely different every day. And I feel like that's such a cliche answer because everyone's like, oh, I do something different every day. But no, I truly do something different every single day. Sometimes in the morning I'll get an email and they're like, we need you on a different project today, and you didn't even know this project existed until right now. So it definitely keeps life exciting, and I guess it's my favorite just because I kind of don't even feel like I'm working. So I definitely think I made a great choice.
I hope you guys are noticing a theme here. Exactly. Well, thank you for that. Katie, next.
I can't say that I have a favorite part of my day. Like Jen said, I know a lot of us will say we have like different things going on. I guess for me right now, I'm on two big projects that I kind of had to fight for to get on, which I think just makes it that much more satisfying when your boss was like, oh, we're not putting anybody on your team. We're going to have like 6 people managing this project. And you're like, is that really a smart move of like our time, knowing how small my team is? And he's like, it'll be fine. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, oh, you're going to be on this project now. So just doing things that I want to do, or pushing my boundaries. So I've actually been working with IT a lot more, and I'm actually thinking about potentially going into IT down the line. But just being able to like introduce myself to other departments and say like, hey, I'm so and so, I'm looking for this information, and building those bridges with everybody so that if I do need to call upon them and say like, hey, I have a question about this, do you know anything about it? I have those connections, and it's easy for me to find information so that I can do whatever I need to do with it and really report out versus struggling to figure out who I need to talk to about what. And if I do need to talk to somebody new, then it's another person that I know in the company and get to talk to them and see what they do and how they impact what I need to do.
Great, thank you. And then Gage, same question.
I would say my favorite part of the day right now, it's interesting because I switch between a class and doing my internship. So like Mondays I'm in class, Tuesdays and Wednesdays I'm doing my internship, Thursday I'm back in class. So it's kind of like just switching up my routine a little bit. But I guess my favorite part right now is just I get to do different things. Like 1 minute I'm talking with classmates, the next minute I'm being a professional, I guess, and talking with my bosses about fixing this or fixing that. So it's very interesting to be a student while also like working at a position and continuing to do work that is real time getting used and like being implemented. So it's a lot of fun.
Great, thank you for that. And something I've noticed with each of your stories too is with these professional experiences, you've been able to either kind of blend them with school or fit them in nicely to school and things like that. And that's something I've noticed with IMEs as well, just given the nature of the work that you do. So, great, thank you. So the next question I have for each of you, let's go to the professional track. So do you have advice for students in terms of getting involved or pursuing internships during college? Each of you mentioned a few things that you were both involved in and experiences that you had. So Jen?
Sure. So I definitely would recommend kind of getting involved in clubs and things like that at RPI. So outside of your, normal coursework, kind of jumping into something new. One, it's definitely fulfilling and fun to do something a little bit different, but two, you also meet so many people you might not otherwise meet. And honestly, I've learned that a lot of those people I can still call upon now and kind of say, hey, how's it going? What's life, during COVID? Do you have any openings at your current, place of employment? And you kind of can open up those conversations without being weird, you kind of have that background already. Even if you haven't spoken since graduation, it's kind of like still there, that RPI connection. So definitely getting involved and meeting as many people as possible, even if you only meet them once, add them on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you want to do, and kind of make that connection. And then also just never stop asking questions. For pursuing internships, feel free to, reach out on LinkedIn. That's such a great platform that I feel like is so underutilized during even during my undergrad. I had a LinkedIn page and I never really went on it. And now I realize, I wish that undergrads would reach out more and kind of, ask questions and say like, hey, do you have any openings at National Grid or anything like that. And, sometimes I do get them whenever I do go to the career fair and things. And, people reach out and I love answering their questions. And I feel like it gives, that little bit of edge for any RPI applicants. So you kind of get an insight into that specific company that you would not otherwise get. So definitely recommend, reaching out, asking questions, networking, and kind of, creating that base.
Great, thank you for that. All right, Gage, same question for you.
So professionally, I would say to just take your resume and keep doing different iterations of it. Like, you can never take that resume and be like, yes, it's perfect, it's done. Like, keep working on it, keep, trying to do it, perfecting it in any way you can. And also, to Jen's comment, doing something new, I'm so thankful I did that. My sophomore year, I joined the cheer team. I have 2 left feet. I've never done cheerleading before. I'm not athletic. Like, I don't do stuff like that. I joined, I'm now the captain, and I've made so many more friends. 3 of which are actually IMEs, so it's great because we do like study sessions, so it worked out really well. I would say definitely doing something new. And cheerleading, it doesn't help my resume. It's not like, oh yeah, I'd be great at your job, but it shows that, you're involved in other things outside of school. So even if you don't think this club is going to be applicable to a job in the real world, still having something on your resume that shows that you did stuff outside of school is very important.
Great, thank you. And then Katie, I think I skipped over you accidentally there. I'm sorry. I'm like talking about order and keeping it all,
Oh, it's fine. I think for me, was it my junior year? So we had Job Link back then. We didn't have Handshake, and I applied to every position that I may or may not be qualified for. And even if I got an interview, it was just one more opportunity that I had to talk to somebody. People were making fun of me because I was applying to internships like it was a job. Like, I did it part-time because every day I was applying to like 2 or 3 different internships, and they're like, why are you wasting your time? You may not get it. And I go, if you don't apply, you have 0 chance of getting an internship. If I at least apply, whether it was like the quick apply with just sending in my resume with no cover letter and just like a generic one, not tailored to the company, I still had a better shot of somebody responding or getting a rejection letter or email, and it paid off. I remember going and thinking like, oh, I never would hear from PetSmart, and I had an interview with them. All these weird jobs that I never would have like thought to apply to, because I did business for one of my internships. I did project management. I did marketing. I did a wide range of things I never thought I would do, but because I applied and talked to the people, I'm like, that's another experience that I want under my belt for future jobs. And again, it takes work and some effort. It may not necessarily happen as easily as going to the career fair and somebody saying, I want to hire you right now. I don't think a lot of us will say that we heard on the spot. Like, you may get a rejection on the spot, but you may not necessarily get an offer on the spot. And it does take effort. They're like, oh, all these people just magically got internships. It's like, did you see the hours that they did applying to jobs or interviews or talking to people and making time to go to like information sessions and like meeting people in a smaller group? Because when you're at the career fair, they're meeting a ton of people, but the ones that are willing to put the effort in to go to the information session, learn a little bit more, ask like tailored questions to the company, shows that you were impressed by them or you want to work for them rather than just waiting for it to come to you. So apply and utilize LinkedIn. Unlike Jen, I was a complete opposite and utilized LinkedIn way too much. But again, it gave me that opportunity to see a bunch of different jobs that I wouldn't have seen otherwise, because I'm limiting myself by just doing JobLink and RPI resources. What else is out there? And people are I know I could say probably for all of us, we're very willing to respond if you reach out and say like, hey, I have a question. Or I've always told people if they want to send their resume to me, I'm more than willing to review cover letters from somebody who's a working professional at this point, because they may have different takes than what somebody else may say for their company. So Jen and I may look at the same resume and say like, absolutely not for me, but for her it might be, oh, this is awesome, this is what I want. So just getting those different perspectives, because like Gage said, you can constantly change your resume and make it fit for the company. And you want to have different versions for what are you trying to highlight? Are you trying to highlight certain skills of more supply chain because that's what the job calls for? Or are you looking more for statistics background and you want to go into big data and that's where you see yourself? So having those different options to be able to pull quickly, this resume fits better with this company, and submitting it really does help down the line.
Great, thank you for that. And something you touched upon there that I do want to mention, the IME, is there's so many different routes that you can go. And with each of you three ladies, it seems as if, there's been different professional experiences and classes that have helped you kind of realize that. But, we have students who go into things like project management or supply chain, quality assurance. And if you look at a lot of the big Fortune 500 companies, even, there's really IMEs at every single organization. So a lot of good points made there. So my next question for you all is, this is going to be kind of more specific to your college experience now. Do you have any additional advice for students who are considering an industrial and management engineering major? Jen, we'll start with you.
I feel like we covered so much already. I guess my last, piece of advice for kind of, if you're really considering going into IME is honestly to just believe in yourself. I feel like so many of us get so caught up when we start college, like we're freaking out about like schedules and what our grades are going to be and things like that. And just know that like you got into RPI, you can do it, So like, don't freak out. Take it day by day, ask questions, reach out to different people, and kind of, pull your resources that way. I feel like we all get so stressed out. I remember pulling so many all-nighters, freaking out, I'm not gonna get this done in time, things like that. And in the end, you're gonna get it done. It's gonna be all right. And in the end, you're gonna have something to talk about. So if it's an all-nighter, you can put, something on your resume that like you work great under pressure, or and kind of work it under that angle. And that'll be a good talking point in a future interview. So kind of remember all these experiences and, don't take it for granted, and, don't freak out. It'll be all good.
Thank you for that. I like that spin on the all-nighter too. Working well under pressure. All right, Katie?
Jen kind of touched upon this earlier of talking to the professors. I know Dr. Jen Pazor was actually the one who got me involved in this industry hour last year, because she had already filled up spots for her class on like introducing like different opportunities for IMEs. So just make sure you get to know the professors. Like I keep in touch with Dr. Pazor. I'll like message her. She started a graduate IME group on LinkedIn. So I know I'm posting like what I'm doing, if we're hiring, the opportunities that we have, like what our different paths have been, whether it's internships and co-ops or full-time jobs, like where that landed us. And I think for IMEs, because we're a smaller group, we're not mechanical engineering, we're not comp sci, there's a smaller knit community feel to us that you may not necessarily find in some of the other engineering departments, and that really speaks to some of the professors too. I know I was very close to Dr. Foley when he was there, and just having those people that you can go to and say like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I remember going to Dr. Pazor's office and feeling like I just cried in her office. I'm like, I'm going to flunk out. This is not going to end well. And having those relationships established with whatever field you go into, whatever degree that you want to pursue, having a couple people that you really can go to when everything feels like it's falling apart just makes it that much easier to go through and like kind of regroup and know you have the support there, whether it's IME or another engineering department or another school altogether. You just have those relationships, even if they're not in your department. Just somebody that you can go to and rely on. Try to get those early on, because once you find that like one or two people that you can go to, it'll definitely help you out.
Great, thank you for that. And the one credit course you had mentioned, I wanted to kind of talk about that quickly. So basically, more or less all the different a couple of different majors don't have it, but IME has a 1 credit course that has speakers come in and talk about the major, and they talk about their research and what students do afterwards. So it's not offered this spring, but it is offered next fall if that's something that you want to take. But again, there's, speakers who come in from industry and such like this. And Gage, we will have you be our last answer to this question. Do you have any additional advice for students who are considering an IME major?
Yeah, so actually that class that you mentioned, that's one of the first classes I took as an IME. And I actually ended up, one professor came in to tell us about his research and the different side of IME, kind of, if you will. So he did research in human trafficking and something in Alaska, but I found it super interesting. And after, me and myself and 3 other kids actually approached him and asked if we could get on his research project. And we joined and we got credit for it. It was great. Something great on my resume. So that class was very, very helpful for me, and I recommend taking it strongly. It's 1 credit. You go once a week, you just listen. There's no work to it. It's just a lot of fun to do. And also, like Katie and Jen said, definitely connecting with professors. Dr. Pazor is one of my professors this semester, and she remembered me from last year when I did this industry hour thing. And, she's just super great. She's put me in that group that Katie mentioned, and it's just led me to so many more connections. And you think, oh, it's a professor, like they just teach me. Well, no, now I'm connected with all these other people because I connected with my professor. So it's definitely very helpful to make friends with your professors, if you will. Just talk to them, go to their office hours. Even if you don't have many questions about homework or anything, just checking in, how you're feeling about the course, things like that. Definitely very helpful.
Thank you very much for that. So this is actually perfect timing on our end. What I will do is go ahead and conclude my part, and I think Kristen will be up next with questions.
Hi, yes.
Hi, okay.
And also, Gage, I love how you suggest that people use office hours to ask how professors are doing. You'd be shocked at how that never happens. So just going into a professor's office and saying, how you doing, can actually make a huge impact on them, because no one ever asks faculty or staff how we're doing. So then we're like, oh, I really like that student. They're a really nice person, which goes a super, super long way. Okay, so now is the time for questions. So I haven't gotten any questions yet, I don't believe. I just scrolled through again to make sure. So I'm gonna not talk for like a minute, a half a minute. And if anyone wants to unmute their mics to ask questions, go for it. If not, throw it right in the chat. As I said, you can make it private if you're feeling a bit shy, or you can put it in the chat so everyone can see it. So let's give you some time to ask those questions. What programming languages are recommended for IMEs to learn? Which is actually a really, really great question. So any panelists are welcome to jump in on this one. Maybe even let us know, like, what do you use day to day on the job? Like, what kind of software and tools do you use?
Excel for me. Everything is spreadsheets. I believe, I'm not sure if IMEs are still switching between a VBA course and CS1. CS1, okay, yeah. As much as I liked the VBA class, I wish I had taken Python. Just having that opportunity. I mean, I can read pseudocode, so a lot of like the IT stuff that I get sent, I can read really easily, but Excel, it's a universal tool, pivot tables, how to really master Excel, and then potentially C to go with it. I would say for me is what I've seen. If you go into statistics, R, because it's open source, is a huge one. So I think it partially depends on where you see yourself going with IME or any other one. But I know for me, I do that, and then I use a lot of lean concepts, so anything that can be incorporated that way.
Yeah, kind of jumping off of what Katie was talking about too. I highly recommend, Python as a good base. I feel like once you have a good base, you can kind of jump into different languages, and it can kind of make it a little bit easier for you depending on where you go with your career choice. Currently, in my current role, I actually don't do any coding whatsoever. But for one of my internships, I actually interned with Shake Shack in Manhattan. And if anybody has ever used the Shake Shack app to order anything, that was my project. So, so definitely, having that skill set is a benefit to having kind of like the basic knowledge of coding, but I don't think you need to be like an expert at anything. A lot of it you learn on the job, so there will always be people there to help you, and Google is your best friend. So definitely maybe Python, maybe C++, but to get a good basis and understanding of the different languages, but nothing too crazy.
Do you have anything to add, Gage?
I was just gonna say that it's used only in one class, but we learned SQL this semester. I've seen it on a lot of applications, like for jobs that I'm applying to now that say like SQL is preferred, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm learning this. But it's not something I've used up until this semester. I don't know really how applicable it is. I'm not sure if it's used more in like data statistics or something like that. But I've seen it, so knowing it couldn't hurt.
And I saw both Katie and Jennifer nodded their heads when you said that, Gage. So I'm thinking it's probably a good skill set to have. Awesome. And that's a nice plug for the curriculum too, because, and Val can vouch for this more than I can, but you do have Comp Sci 1 as a requirement as an IME. Maybe rather than taking graphics and CAD, you choose graphics and communication, so you can get that Excel sheet or Excel knowledge. And then as you continue through, as Gage mentions, you're going to come across more and more I guess tools for your toolbox to help you, get that groundwork so that when you get into the field, you will learn on the job. So I think that it's really nice to look at curriculum when you're thinking about your majors. And it looks like we do have one more question here in the chat, which is, would you say there's a lot more face-to-face interaction, or is it more virtual? And then in parentheses, of course, under normal conditions. So pre-COVID, was it virtual or face-to-face, I guess?
I think it really depends on the type of career you're going into, because I feel like IME especially is such a broad major that you can really go into so many different industries. Personally, I'm in the utility industry right now, and everything is face-to-face. I mean, if we're on a lot of team projects, even if we're, the lead engineer on a certain project, we're talking with different departments, trying to figure out solutions for different problems. And it's never a problem I'll fix on my own. So I feel like with my personal experience in my, kind of sector that I went into, a lot of it is face-to-face, under normal circumstances, and kind of going to people's desks in the office and kind of jumping ideas off of each other and trying to come to conclusions with other different perspectives and things like that. So for if you're going into like the utility side, it's definitely face to face, but it's definitely different depending on where what companies you're going to be working for. I'm not really sure if Katie's is, more virtual or face-to-face, but she said she does go, does site visits and things like that too. So she can definitely speak more to that, but it definitely depends on, where you're going to be working.
Yeah, for me, pre-COVID, I would go out to the stores a lot for our time studies, but we also operate in 6 different states, and I'm not going to be driving to a store to give them a little bit of information. So I do get a lot of like phone calls or emails saying like, oh, this looks wrong for my number of hours that I should have earned based on our labor standards. Can you review XYZ? And those are things that I can easily do from my laptop and email back saying, like, here's what we have. Just verify the information, make sure it's correct, and these are the numbers you can go off of. So if it's a local store, a lot of times I use the local store since we have so many Price Shoppers and Market 32s in the area that's easy to just drive to one and just say, like, what do you do? Why do you do what you do? Because a lot of times they have better processes and operations in place anyway. But like Jen said, a lot of our stuff, because we are retail and you buy groceries from us, so we have a lot of customer interactions. It's easier, like our company in general is much more customer based, so it's easier to interact with them face to face rather than, obviously sometimes a phone call is a lot faster if they just need quick information, but for some things that need more in-depth or explanations, going to the stores and seeing them firsthand, it makes it that much easier versus just trying to explain, well, it's kind of working like this, but we're not really sure. And just to be able to see it firsthand and really have a better explanation or understand their verbiage. Because when you go into different industries, people have different terms for different things. So when I go in and talk to another IME and they're not in the same industry or they're working on, like we have different terminology in our company versus another company. When I talk to like people from Giant Eagle, they may use different words and it's like, well, we mean the same thing, but what context do you use it in? And it makes it a little bit easier that we do have some similar terminology when I talk to the IMEs from Giant Eagle, but everybody uses it a little bit differently. So again, to be able to have those interactions, for me, I would say more of mine has been remote, but more so in person for like labor standards.
And going off of both of those comments, it really comes down to what the career is, what industry you're in. Because at Mack Truck, it was super, I don't know, weird in my opinion, but they had they could be, in the same room as each other and still doing a video call with headphones on and doing a conference. Literally could walk to each other's desks and still did the video calls and the conferences. So I really think it depends on the industry that you go in, because they were all standing next to each other and still doing virtual meetings and everything. And this is pre-COVID. So yeah, I think it just depends. They really only met face to face, in the same room, not virtual, when there was an emergency of some sort. So I think that that's what they go off of, but.
Gage, that seriously made me laugh. I would say it's definitely probably industry and also probably workplace culture, which is a really important thing to think about for every organization you go into. And I think when you first graduate, or you're doing those internships, but when you first graduate, workplace culture is definitely important. But I think the more workplaces you discover and the more your values develop, the more you can go into an environment and go like that and go, yes, this is my ideal. I never want to make eye contact with anyone unless I have to. Or you do what I just did and cringe a little bit and cry on the inside and go, why don't you want to hang out? So I love that. That made me smile. All right, so we are just past 7. So thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Val. As always, industry hour is my favorite part of the week. And even though it's our second year doing it, I swear I learned so freaking much, and I can't wait till next year. So I will send out the information from tonight, so you'll get contact information. Of course, there's going to be a recording of this, et cetera, so stay tuned for that. But thank you all. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.